Hi everyone. I'm gonna keep this super short because I have to go to college. I'm doing my counselling diploma. So I read last night that Doreen Lawrence, Baroness Lawrence, had said that she had heard that I target people who had been victims of crime. I was really upset. I cried quite a lot. As listeners know, I'm a victim of crime myself. I'm a victim of rape in my childhood by my adoptive father and violence and beaten by my mother, which has affected me my entire life. Not to say this compares with losing your son, it certainly doesn't, but the fact is, I've never targeted anybody in my life. People know the story of how I got into the press by being a front page story myself. The journalist who wrote it took me as a lover. I was age 22 and I was sucked into his world at the News of the World, where I was used and abused and bullied and spat out. I now live in a rented hovel with not a penny to my name. That's what Fleet Street did to me. I helped hacked off. I helped them. I met up with them. I didn't commit any crimes when I was at um, Fleet Street, even though I was certainly bullied to try to do that. But I was intensely self protected. I'd already had my life ruined by Phil Hall. So I knew what they were like. I knew what journalists were like. I knew they were ruthless. And when they asked me to do anything illegal, I would try to do it another way that was legal. According to Graham Johnson, that's breaking the law. Well, I'll say to Graham Johnson that most of the time I actually went to people as a freelance journalist because I was aware. I was aware that, and a lot of times journalists would use private investigators and then turn them over. Turn them over means they'd do a story on what they'd been doing. And I was very aware of that. It's taken a long time, but the journalist is Graham Johnson. So despite me coming along and helping him, he's now saying, oh, I did criminal things. David Sherborne is saying that in court, and because I'm working class, I don't have a rejoinder. Anyway, I read the Doreen Lawrence comment that she said I target victims of crime. I want to say to her publicly, I don't target anybody. Because of my childhood, I didn't know whether it was night or day. The Ian Brady event happened. Phil Hall took me as a lover, if you can call it that. I had nowhere else to go after what they said about me, that I was related to Ian Brady. I didn't even know who my father was. So in trauma, I ended up working for them. I was used by them. I ended up having to get in cars with serial killers. I've ended up like I've ended up. It totally ruined my marriage prospects. It's ruined my life. If anyone's a victim of the press, it's 100% me. In fact, I don't know anyone else who's more of a victim of the press than me, who wants to be the blood of Ian Brady when I'm most certainly not. And they knew it because my birth certificate said I was born in London. Brady's never even been to London. But Phil Hall said, if we say it's you that's saying it, that way there's no comeback on me. So after he ruined my life, I had no choice but to go and work with him. He was the only, the press was the only place that knew it wasn't true. So it became a refuge, and yet it used and abused me. Um, I was very angry when I read the Doreen Lawrence stuff because when the BBC filmed me, they made me say that I put in a call to her. I didn't put in a call to her. The Daily Mail wanted to know what was going on with her, and Stephen Wright, the journalist, didn't want to ring her. He felt for some reason it would be inappropriate, and he said, "Can you research, but not in any bad way?" All this rubbish about being bugged and stuff. It's just not. The Daily Mail are just goody two shoes all the way along the line. I worked for them for over 10 years. Um, they're just not like that. I mean, it's just absurd. Um, so um, when the BBC were filming me, what happened I said, I thought of the idea because I'd rung an IRA man and said I was from the Mail, and he went, you should say you're from the Guardian because now I'm not going to give you an interview. This is before I got close to the real IRA. So I thought to myself, well, if, if you're bothered about Baroness Lawrence doesn't like the Mail, I'm a freelancer. I can say I'm working for anyone else. And when I made that comment, and he then shouted at me and said, "Oh, you can't make that call." Now, the BBC wanted me to have made the call. Now, I didn't care one way or another, but it was like hanging on a thread whether Baroness Lawrence would get compensation or not. And they were like, oh, are you going to stand in the way of her getting compensation? I don't want to do that. If someone's had their son murdered, of course they need apologies and compensation. So they made me say sorry to Baroness Lawrence for making the call. But I didn't make the call. But I don't mind saying sorry. So I sat there and said, I'm really, really sorry. And I thought, well, good, she'll get compensation. But all this now has escalated, and, all this stuff where Graham Johnson has gone to Baroness Lawrence and told her that I am a bad person, when what I've done is I've affected another journalist's life, Stephen Wright. Stephen Wright said, no, you can't do anything like that. So I'm affecting his life, and that's not right. But I was willing to do that if it helps someone who's had their son murdered, which is absolutely horrific. And it was a terrible thing that happened to her. So if I can help her in any way, I would. But now Graham Johnson has turned it round and gone to her and said, I targeted her. No, I didn't. And then someone else has told her, but I've targeted victims of crime. I'm a victim of crime, and I'm the most softest individual you're likely to meet. They bullied the shit out of me. I went to Fleet Street as a victim of Fleet Street. I'm going to end it there. I'm upset. All right. And I know I shouldn't rant and rave according to Private Eye, my YouTubes. I rant in them. I don't mean to, but this Graham Johnson isn't the right person for the job of what he's doing, cleaning up the press. He's just not.